Hello and welcome to today's edition of State of the Nation, a live telecast of the ongoing nationwide protest. It's the 6th of the hunger protest, and reports say the Lagos Planning Committee of the End Bad Governance have called off today's protest due to continued attacks on peaceful protesters by hoodlums under the watchful eyes of the Nigeria police. I am Uju Ejeye.
Organizers of the protest allege that protesters were attacked by miscreants in the presence of the police at the Ojota venue during Monday's protest, forcing cancellation of today's rally. I am Terverr Tyav. Welcome.
In some parts of the north, it has been sorrow, tears and blood, especially in Jos, Bauchi, Kano, Katsina and Zamfara, where miscreants carrying Russian flags vandalized and looted public property. This has led to the imposition of a 24-hour curfew in Bauchi, Kaduna and some local government areas in some affected states of the north.
And in Abuja, the nation's seat of power, the Nigerian police force prevented protesters from gathering even at the designated venue approved by the court for the protest. However, the police were unable to stop the protesters in Jikwe, Kurudu and Ngenya satellite towns of Abuja. Meanwhile, the National Human Rights Commission has condemned the continuous violation of human rights by law enforcement agencies.
The Commission notes that the use of excessive force by law enforcement agencies while dispersing protesters and journalists is a violation of the rights to peaceful protest and assembly. Also, the West Africa Pan-African Youth Union expresses deep concern over the recent development in Nigeria, where some individuals have resorted to flying the Russian flag.
The group noted that it believes in the power of democratic institutions and the rule of law and support the efforts of the Nigerian government to address the grievances of its citizens through peaceful and constitutional means.
In today's edition of the program, we shall be interrogating issues that have arisen since the protest began on August the 1st, 2024. For instance, why are protesters carrying Russian flag in some parts of the north?
These and many others are some of the many things we shall be looking at on this edition of the program. That will be right after this break. Stay with us.
The police and the military, indeed no other security agency involved in the management of this protest has deployed excessive use of force. Instead, what we had was attack on security agents during the protest. From our record, there was no shooting incident by the police. The police or the military did not use any live ammunition in the management of this protest.
But to join us together with security forces to make Nigeria better. We want to assure them we on this side that we are fully committed. We love Nigeria, we love the country. We are mindful of the fact that we are being paid, we are being equipped, and money is generated from the country. And so we are duty bound to protect the country. We are only after those that are against the state, not those that are innocent. So we want to make that very clear. We continue to work together as a team to support Mr. President in achieving his mandate.
Nobody should be asked whether or not this is pre-existing subversion or whether it is with us. It's with us. And what should security organizations do? Before now, was there an intelligence? Yes. Now, is there an intelligence? Yes. Were actions taken? Democracy is not the same thing as dictatorship. In democracy, you follow procedures.
I want to assure you members of the media, Nigerians, that the Nigerian army is the people's army. As the chief of army staff, my eyes are on the dashboard. So I'm more concerned about bringing our country to a state of sustainable peace and security. And in doing that, I want to state that attention have not been diverted from our main operational commitment.
As part of our constitutional responsibility, which is protection of the sovereignty of this country and provision of aid to civil authority, we are ready and we stand firm and resolute to provide the needed assistance to the Nigerian police in order to ensure that law and order is restored in all parts of this country where these violent protests have started. We will not renege in our responsibility, and we are ready to do it with the last drop of our blood.
And make it worse. So let us go back, desist from this protest, desist from perpetrating violence and disorder and chaos. Let us go back and give this a chance, and the federal government to implement the policies that will eventually address all these grievances and complaints. The armed forces and all the president has done is to reduce the to cushion the effects of the cost inflation by suspending customs duties and taxes on imported food items for a period of time. We believe that when this is implemented, it will help to bring down the prices of food items in the market. Now, Nigeria Customs is committed to the implementation of these particular fiscal policies.
Sponsors, some of these people who are actually in diaspora, we have a number of them who are actually instigating this mayhem that we're seeing right now. What we've done is we've had them on our watch list, and they've been watch listed. We have them on our radars, and we're making sure that any attempt they make to come into the country will notify the necessary authority. And we're working closely, of course, with the NIA and DSS, of course, and the NSA's office, so that all those we have in diaspora that are actually trying to subvert the authority of this nation, they are in our radars. We have them watch listed, and any attempts they make to come into the country will be notified, and we'll also know what to do. We'll notify the necessary authority.
All over the Federation, we have also made some arrests of especially those who are trying to attack or who have attacked critical national assets of government and infrastructure. And we have seen that really there's no, if you trace the history of protests in the country, you will have seen that there's no protest that has been done successfully, without some form of violence or the other. And this one is really not a protest. From what we have seen, there are reports and there are agitations of a regime change, and that is treasonable in nature. And so let me say that we are going to work very closely together to sustain and even go on above the present situation of the form of operation that security agencies are doing. From the core, we are ready. We are championing the cause of peace, trying to educate Nigerians that there's no need for this protest, and that if you want to do protest, you do protest without violence. And so we are ready and we are poised to work with all agencies to make sure that this protest or this situation is nipped in the bud.
All right, sir, you saw the military, the heads of the military, and of course paramilitary agencies, of course, I won't say really appealing to protesters, but of course telling us what they intend to do should the situation get out of hand. And one particularly caught my interest, but before I go to that particular thing that caught my interest, let me introduce our guests in the studio. And we have Shehu Gabam, the National Chairman, Social Democratic Party. You're welcome. You should have been with us 2 days ago. I don't know if you joined the protesters. We'll find out shortly. And of course, we have the man who eats bones and not just meat, Vincent Otokpopo, a lawyer.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And Dr. Omoleye, National Public Relations Officer, National Youth Council of Nigeria, is also with us.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Now, I think we should just go straight to the first question, that one that caught my attention. He said, and so the protesters should desist from the protest. And I would like to ask, let me start with the lawyer. Is it in the place of the military, any arm of the military, to say protesters should desist from carrying out protests constitutionally guaranteed? And even if it were so, where is the right of the average Nigerian in this?
Okay, thank you for having me once again. The issue of the ongoing national protest has provoked an exciting scholastic disputation. You know, I would say rather ranging from contentious issues and responses. It is not in the place of the military or the Nigerian police force to issue order directing, tending to subject, deprive, or curtail the exercise of constitutional rights. Those rights are not creation of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria or any other law in the world. Those rights are enshrined and inalienable in man. It was ordained by God and created by God. It's as old as life itself. So under the law, where a right has been created by the Constitution seems to be is the diagram norm from which all other norms derive its legal validity and effect. Now, etymologically, there are certain international instruments that has provided for this right and made it sacrosanct, fundamental, sacrosanct, and inalienable. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948, if you read Article 1 of that section, it made a very big, by the preamble, pronouncement as to the right that ought to be exercised by all persons throughout the world, as the case may be. Now, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, with its optional protocols, which Nigeria is signatory to, also provide for right to peaceful assembly and association, right to movement, and right to dignity of human person, which Nigerians enjoy. Now, when you come down to Africa, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, Ratification and Enforcement Act of, I think, 89 or thereabout, 2004, Laws of Federation of Nigeria, which have been domesticated by Section 12 of the Constitution, to operate as one of the local laws made by National Assembly. Article 10 and 11 of that African Charter on Human and People's Rights provided copiously and laconically and granted the inalienable right, re-echoed, re-emphasized, and the inalienable right to freedom of assembly, association, movement, and dignity. Now, when you come to our diagram number I've mentioned before, the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria, section, under chapter 4, section 39, 40, and 41, which is almost on the lips of every Nigerian, even those on the street today, where you tell them, say, we have right to be here. And they are not stating what is not in the law. It is well provided in the law. Now, can the state curtail this right? Okay, before then, the right to freedom of assembly and association is so important that the court has made a judicial pronouncement giving it tacit recognition and general acceptance. In the case of ANPP versus IGP, after the 2003 presidential election, President General Muhammad Buhari and ANPP supporters, having lost the election, applied to the Inspector of Police that they want to carry out protests, demonstration, to bring to bear their displeasure and disapprobation over the indignation and issue that characterized with the conduct and the aftermath of the 2003 presidential election that President Obasanjo was declared winner. The application was refused by the then IG that you cannot protest because they want to protest. They say they want to protest throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, having refused the application, they went, their supporters and organizers went out, first of all, on the street of Kano State, I think on the 24th of September, 21 September 2003, to demonstrate and carry out peaceful demonstration. clenching their right to freedom of assembly and association. Now, police came. That demonstration was organized by anchored by some persons, but the then General Muhammadu Buhari participated actively, was on the street leading the protest. Now, police came there and used all manner of force and dispersed them and arrested so many of them and put them in confinement. Then restrained them and detained them. They approached the court and said, "Court, by virtue of Article 11 and 12, we have quoted under African Charter of Human and People's Rights and Section 39 and 40 of the Constitution, we have right to freedom of assembly and association." The court looked at the gamut of this and declared that they have the right to peaceful assembly and association. And that the police, under the old law, Public Order Law, Section 1, Sub 1, which say that if you want to protest previously, you apply to the governor of a state, to the commissioner of police, for right to protest. And under that section, the governor will give you consent. Then under Section 1, Sub 3 of that Public Order Act, the governor can say, "Oh, I want to protest through Wisdom Market." The governor by that order, Section Sub 1, Sub 3 can say, "No. By that, no, I want you to protest through Gariki." They can divert you. But by virtue of this, when the matter went to Supreme Court, that was the order or the section upon which the police predicated their refusal in that instance. But when that matter traveled to Court of Appeal, my Lord Adekeye JCA, as then word, made a far-reaching judicial pronouncement in that context and said that it does not lie in the mouth of the police, in this context, military, because military is out of it. It's in extreme case that they have been drafted in, to curtail, restrict the right to freedom of assembly and association, clenching on using that obnoxious, which I say that section is a repugnant to natural justice, equity, and good conscience, to deny people of the Public Order Act, to deny Nigerians right to freedom of assembly and association. So that section and whatever it is was struck down.
I also know that subsequently, was it Ganifa Omi or Falana that went to court eventually over the issue of even writing to the police and all of that? All of that is not necessary.
Yes.
That was why some persons were raising issues when the IG came out and said people should come and bring your names, bring your address. And all of that. People were asking what for?
It's not a requirement of law. So the law is very clear.
Yeah, the position of the law is like you said, is very clear. But under this circumstance, maybe the national chamber.
I want to talk on that under the circumstance. Now, the certain provisions of the Constitution, right, are not absolute. So to say. Now, section 45 of the Constitution says that the right of freedom of movement, assembly and association, and there are other rights listed, even dignity. Okay, no, dignity is not there. Can be curtailed.
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech can be curtailed by law, reasonable, justifiable in a democratic society. But that phraseological construction, can be curtailed by law, reasonable, justifiable in a democratic society, has been subjected to a multiple interpretation. There is no clear definition as to what is law. Does the judgment of a court, order of a court by FCT High Court or Lagos or Kwara, that seem to have restricted people to confine in a confined environment, does it constitute a law, reasonable, justifiable in a democratic society, so as to derogate and restrict and stop and derogate the right?
That's
a law passed by the National Assembly.
All right, let's Alhaji Shehu Gebam waiting here.
Well, let me thank you for this opportunity. And of course, the legal minds have spoken well, have quoted the relevant section of the Constitution, the UN Charter, and so on and so forth. Like I've said openly on the air, we in SDP, we supported peaceful protest. There's no doubt about it, devoid of any violence, devoid of any behavior by any individual to harm or burn or destroy or kill any Nigerian. And that bring to bear that there is no freedom that is unlimited on earth. Every freedom has its own limitation. But once you take it beyond the provision of the law that allow you to assemble, there are other provisions that also protect other persons that are unable to meet up with or to be part of that system, or they believe that they won't be part of it. So the security agencies, I believe strongly, to a large extent, created some of the problems that we had in some of the states. Particularly, if I can refer to Kaduna, I can refer to Kano, I can refer to Bauchi, I can refer to Gombe, precisely. In Kano states, virtually every intelligence agencies are quite aware of the ongoing total crisis that is embedded in Kano states. You know, the emirship kind of a thing. It's a crisis that has been on for quite a long time.
Even from the governorship election.
Yes, from the governorship election comes to the dethronement of the emir, and then the new emir that was appointed by the state, which is the domestic affairs of the states. Now, that crisis has been ongoing. Again, this process jumped into the Kano, you know, as a whole. One of the most densely populated states. Different characters that you can think anywhere is in Kano state. I thought that the security agencies would look at states that have peculiarities politically in case of this kind of situation. Kano is one of them. Lagos is one of them. Kaduna is one of them. Oyo is one of them. Port Harcourt is one of them. These are major political flashpoints of the nation. Now, if the situation in Kano, the security agencies were up and doing, and based on the intelligence they have generated, and based on the fact that they said they know the individuals that are behind this, they know that violence is going to ensue, probably they know the individuals that are going to push that violence. What I thought is that they would have prevented the violence from taking place. Because if you look at what happened in Kano, particularly the center that was burnt down, it was preventable because the governor was open to receive peaceful protesters. And then you can see other protesters that are coming from a different angle that came with violence. So to that extent, I believe there's a negligence on the side of the security, you know, not to contain the violent part of the protesters in Kano states. Now, in Kaduna State, when you listen to the rhetorics of the governor, was part of what provoked the entire thing. So the same thing in Bauchi, you know, so the governor did not have matters. You know, in a very tense situation, what really can manage the situation is language. How you deploy your language, how you deploy your message matters. This protest would have been managed successfully, would have been camped down successfully if the government officials have deployed communication diplomats, communication experts who can communicate to the citizens. This is what we are doing. This is what we intend to do. We call on the president before this protest to address Nigerians. He is the #1 stakeholder. We have advised him, talk to the citizens of the country. They elected you into office. By ignoring them, ignoring all the issues they are raising, and inevitably there's nothing you can say other than the fact that there's heavy unemployment, there's hunger, there's frustration, and then of course, so many other factors associated to the agitations are real and are facts. Now, we try to convince the presidency to address these issues in good faith, and because we don't want the issue to get out of control. This is not the first time we're having protests in Nigeria. This is not the first time tough decisions were taken in Nigeria. The same president have protested before. So I don't know why they should raise so much alarm as if there was going to be an atomic bomb that will kill everybody.
All right.
We're supposed to be in the panic mode. So what I'm saying is that leadership all over the world depends on the moderation of the leaders, how they moderate a situation, how they look at the feeling of the people, and how sensitive it is, and how to cool it down.
All right, we'll soon get to Dr. Omoleye, the National Public Relations Officer, National Youth Council of Nigeria, who is with us here. But Terverr, I think you want to bring in...
We'll bring in the National Commandant, Peace Corps of Nigeria, Dixon Akko. He's joining us virtually. Dixon? Okay.
All right. Dr. it just so happens that you are next to speak. So, Dr. What the IG said his men did not brutalize anybody. I know that even journalists, some of them were brutalized, including 3 of our teams, but on the side of protesters. And again, at this point in time, shouldn't there be softer words rather than something that some people have described as, self-righteousness?
Yeah, thank you very much. If you are to look at protests around the world, before, during, and after the protests, we always have to come to the round table. Nigerian protests will never be of different. NSAS came and gone. After NSAS, we had the Naira redesign, self-motivated protest where people were frustrated due to their inability to access cash in banks, POS, across some weeks to the election. Everything still go back to round table. So what we are saying is that the government should open the door for conversation. Yes, during the president's speech, he said he's willing and he's ready to dialogue with the young people. But who are they? Who are these young people to dialogue with? Everybody knows that to access the president is not that easy. We expected that he's supposed to come up with a committee or a team of people who is to be liaised with, to serve as a link within the protesters and the government, whereby they can now say, okay, this is our agitation, this is what we are presenting to the government. After the NSAS protest in Lagos, across the country, Lagos State government came up with a panel of inquiry where a whole lot of young people, came out and also, expressed their feelings through that platform. Even President Muhammadu Buhari then too, set up a team where young people were able to, even though we couldn't get the report of the panel. But what I'm saying is the president should be more open, not just by saying it, but he should also act towards it, because we have a whole lot of young people within this government whom we believe that has what it takes to listen to their friends, their colleagues who are on the streets, who can also take this, impulse to the president to also act on it.
Perhaps the chief of staff or secretary to the government of the federation should have followed up on the president's speech on the modalities for the dialogue, which is why some of the protesters were saying the president was perhaps not genuine in the offer for dialogue. But we have the National Commandant Peace Corps of Nigeria joining us again, Dixon Ako. You are there now.
Yes, Alan.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Evening, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's nice having you. Can you tell us what your organization, the role your organization played in the protest, or is playing, because the protest has not been officially called off, is playing in this protest vis-a-vis what we're seeing on the streets, from Lagos to Bauchi to Zamfara to Port Harcourt and across the entire country?
Well, prior to the commencement of the protest, I did, on behalf of my organization, address a world press conference where we were advised strongly against the protest. It doesn't see if we don't recognize the power or the right of citizens to protest. But our concern was based on the fragile nature of the society today. That was why we called for constructive dialogue and social engagement by the federal government with the organizers of the protesting group. We do know that the possibility of such protest to join issue with government, we raised it even in the course of my press briefing, which was well publicized. And the only rule now, as far as we are concerned, when the protest starts, is to align with ourselves with security agencies to see how we can complement their efforts, because they are doing very, very well. But then, like I said, our responsibility, and as far as we as an NGO is concerned, is just to complement the role of an NGO, as not to be seen to be attempting to hijack the work of the function of any of the statutory body. So if you go around the Federal Capital Territory and some of the state of the Federation where the police and other security agents so allow us to complement their effort. We are with them across board to see the role we can play. But from the angle that we nurse our affair, I think it has materialized. They said that there are serious violence in some state of the federation, and this is what we are advised against beforehand. So we'll continue to appeal to the conscience of our youth, especially the organizers, that look, Mr. President has come out and opened the door for engagement and dialogue. They should told that at least give him the benefit of doubt to see whether he keep to his word. There is nothing that cannot be negotiated in life. And a premise on that, we are advising to all those who are promoting the protest to please, in the interest of the security and the peace of this nation, give Mr. President the benefit of doubt. Even if it is 2-3 months, at least let us see how dialogue and social engagement, when situation get to the level we have at hand now, integrated negotiation and consulting them is the sure way to go and not protesting. And on this note, we will continue to beg or appeal to the conscience of the protesters to give peace a chance by engaging the government, since Mr. President has opened the door for them to be engaged.
Thank you so much,
Dixon
Akor, the National Commandant of the Peace Corps. Thank you so much. Now, let me come back to the lawyer, Mr. Taku, 2 issues quickly. Just, I know that this is another topic entirely, but he said, that they should be allowed to complement the police and other agencies, security agencies. And some persons have said, look, if you equip the police force very well, if we have adequate number of policemen, that might not be necessary. Would you agree?
Yeah, I will adopt a radical approach to answer to the question. If you equip them the way they have anticipated, will not be too easy without amendment to the provisions of the Constitution, as it were. You need to amend the Constitution, and if you equip them in the current situation, there will be overlap between their maybe proposed or would be constitutionally guaranteed responsibilities and powers and that of the police.
All right.
What I think is that police can be matched together. Police can be subsumed by the police force as the case may be. But if you equip them to stand alongside with the police with the power to arrest NCDs, what do you call it?
NSCDC.
NCDC or something.
NSCDC.
NSCDC is there. That the civil defense is there. It will be, and this comes in the wake of the call for state police, which has gathered momentum and national clout and acceptance. That the best way to give security is the one that I will give to myself in my village, in my local government. So what we should be talking about is not a national. We should just decentralize this security issue as at this point. If we go by what they are saying to equip them, you still have to over-labor the national, give too much power at the center.
All right, I think, like I said, is a full topic on this. So I just wanted you to touch on it briefly. Now, next we will be going to the issue of people waving the Russian flag, but not yet. We just have a communication coming in. The Campaign for Democratic and Workers' Rights is demanding the immediate release of Michael Adaramoye, Babatunde Oluwajo, and others who were arrested. These are leaders of the protests who were arrested between 2 days ago and yesterday. Now, let's say Alhaji Gedam coming here. They're asking for their release, and I think that it falls within constitutional rights.
Naturally, every arrest falls within the constitutional right of the citizens to be released once the security agencies have done due diligence on the reason why they are arrested. I don't know the location they were arrested, why they were arrested.
Oh, they are leaders of the nationwide
what I'm saying
protest.
is that I don't know on which location they were arrested. So the location matters. Locations where
they actually said they were arrested in their homes.
In their homes, around 2 a.m.
Today?
After the president's broadcast.
Yes.
After the president's broadcast, they had a briefing rejecting the content of the broadcast. And
well, I also rejected the content. I issued. I was on TVC. I expressed my reservation on the statement. I have tremendous respect for the president. But it is my right also to make observations. But I don't know why they were arrested. I hope that those who arrested them will come up with reason why they arrested them. You know, unfortunately, this is almost 20-something years since democracy was restored. We can't do our experimenting anymore. We are fighting for everyone, and we are struggling for everyone, both the uniform men and the civilians. We belong to the same institution, same country. My appeal here is that, like you mentioned, the leaders of the country, the security chiefs, should apply a lot of diplomacy in handling these issues. We have seen countries where this kind of thing have consumed, and is still consuming. It just happened yesterday or before yesterday in Bangladesh. Now, the global economic crisis is ravaging everywhere. It's not just peculiar to Nigeria. We have seen the West African coast have been taken over by anger, misgovernance, injustice, and so on and so forth. Don't just isolate this to security agents. If you look at the role of the judiciary and what is going on in Nigeria, you know, it's contributing tremendously to the tension that we are going through. We have to look at issues holistically and talk to ourselves. This is our country. We have no any other country except Nigeria.
We've seen cases in the UK, for instance, where the Conservatives, the Labour Party, when we saw the Palestinian anti and pro-Palestinian protests in the US, we saw how the Democrats and Republicans, almost everybody united.
Yes.
But in Nigeria, the politicians, you people,
including
you mentioned your governor, who yesterday in public glare condemned the president as if what he is doing in Bauchi is different from, you know, what the president is doing. We've seen the governor of Adamawa State, also a PDP state, do about, you know, the same thing. Though what we've seen in Taraba State is a little different in the way and manner, you know, he has gone ahead in approaching the matter. Why is it that in Nigeria, with this protest, we've not been able to see even the Labour Party presidential candidate, the PDP president in the last elections, all of them, almost everybody saying different things, and all the political class has been unable to come together.
See, the peculiarities
of the nation.
The peculiarities are not the same, and then the fundamentals of the institutions are not the same. For instance, what the governor of Adamawa have said, that why wouldn't the president look at the fifth columnist inside the APC as part of those responsible? And I can tell you this, PDP was defeated from power because of the fifth columnist in the PDP. You know, the internal rebellion within the PDP was what led to the emergence of the APC. I'm sure you know that clearly as a journalist. Now, instead of the government to look inward, what happened, what went wrong within the APC itself? Who are those that are dissatisfied, that are desirous of creating problems for this government? They are looking outside. In PDP, we knew, I was among the founders of PDP from G7, and I know that the mismanagement, lack of internal democracy, imperialism, imposition, was what led to the PDP losing the election. The same characteristics is playing out in APC. So they should look inward and look at what is really going on. Now, for you to suggest that maybe everybody will be on the same page, it's not possible, because the dimensions are not the same. The treatment are not the same. Look at our elections. Look at the judgment of the tribunal. I mean, the courts, from the tribunal, the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court, you see contradictory judgments. And the cases are almost the same, are similar.
Like Plateau State.
Like Plateau, like Nasarawa, even our case in Kogi State. Look at the judgment in Bayelsa State. Look at the judgment of Kogi State. These are similar cases. We tender all the beaver. We did all that the Supreme Court said a party should do. But different judgment in the case of Bayelsa, different judgment in case of Kogi State. So look, we are the one doing great disservice to our country. We are all inclusive. The politicians, the journalists, and everybody is inclusive.
The journalists.
No, but that's the truth.
What we see.
Okay.
Report.
No, you don't report what you see. You see what you see. You do as much as possible to edit what you see, because I'm sure it's in the overall national interest so that you will not escalate the situation. But what I'm saying, the more sometimes we try to reduce the magnitude of the damage simply because we don't want certain individual to get affected due to one interest or the other, the more we damage the fabric of the nation. The nation is at the trying moment. What I expect the president to do, for the fact that he got 8.something million votes, is to build a new wall, of strengthening the nation, uniting the country, forming a government of inclusiveness, and so on and so forth. President Obasanjo, when he came in, he brought people from different parties that helped to stabilize his government.
The president brought in Wike from PDP.
No, Wike is not PDP, please. You are trying to dramatize it. But what I'm saying is that as a president that is highly experienced, that have been in the opposition, that fought for the restoration of democracy, that supported NGOs to fight to strengthen democracy, I expect him to be more cohesive in terms of delivery, in terms of uniting the country. I don't expect despotism. I don't expect ethnic bigotry in all that he does. But in the nutshell, we are not hurting anybody except the system. The damage that has been done so far is the same Nigerian resources that will be used to fix them. Now, look at what happened in Bauchi, in other to be specific. Yeah. Now, probably the IG is not everywhere. He may not hear everything. But we saw, and I'm sure it's not AI animation, where a policeman pointed at somebody that had been disarmed and shot him. The video is all over the place. Probably the IG have not seen that. His attention needs to be
even if physically challenged person was maltreated in front of the government house.
So I saw the one in Lagos you mentioned, where police were watching. People were hitting peaceful protesters. Now, are we a different country? Why do we ignite crisis? And why do government get involved in sponsoring people to do a pro-government protest? Now, from what we are hearing, there's likelihood they want to organize pro-government protests. How are they sure the pro-government protests will not be hijacked by also criminal elements? In a nation where the unemployment is extremely very high, in a nation where our young have gone into drugs and criminality, in a nation where people are struggling for what to eat on a daily basis. Now, the entire security agencies of Nigeria are not up to 1 million. The police force are not up to 400,000. How would they police close to 200 and something million people? These are facts that we must look into holistically and deal with them holistically.
Let's talk to you, Dotun Omoleye.
Yes, sir.
I saw the governor of Taraba State. He had like a town hall with the youths, appealing to them, reasoning with them. And we have also seen the governor of Rivers and some other governors, I think Governor of Gombe, trying to appeal to the youths. Shouldn't that be done on a more broader level, like almost all the governors, even local council chairmen, doing the same thing? Don't you think it will go a long way in reassuring the young ones?
In an environment where people lack trust, in an environment where people are not willing to take that 1 minute to trust whoever is addressing them, sometimes the conversation might not be in the expected results. Before the protest, days before the protest, week before the protest, a lot of stakeholders have been coming out to talk to young people because it is believed, or it is publicly, that young people are the active players, in every protest. By the time you look at the numbers of people during the protest, out of 10, you always find 7, 8, 9 of the numbers. So that shows you that the strength lies in the young people. And the right focus leader should find a way to identify with the numbers of the young people, because this is a number that you cannot joke with. We saw what happened in Bangladesh a few days ago, 24 hours ago. That shows you the power of the young people. And we can't undermine that power. So conversation, dialogue is key. By all levels of government, all levels of stakeholders, politicians, non-politicians, because when this country is good, it's for everybody. And when it turns otherwise, it affects everybody. So we shouldn't just leave it to the government alone. Yes, governors have been talking, but when I'm talking about trust, people are like gradually losing interest or losing the trust in leadership, in governance, in people in power. So it's high time we do things in a different way so that we can get a different result. But if we sit back and say, oh, the governors are talking, in some states, we could see in Kano, the governor came out before the protest to say the protest should proceed. But when the protest started, he couldn't curtail it. That shows you that he doesn't have the grip of that state in terms of telling people where to go and where not to go. So we can't undermine the importance of conversation. After this protest, we'll still continue to dialogue. During this protest, it is important that we discuss. But how do we bring up the results, the issues discussed during this conversation? How do we put them into use? These are the ingredients that will determine if young people will continue to build that trust or uphold that trust in our leaders.
One gain, I know that your organization was one of those that said they pulled out the protest.
Yeah.
One of the gains, perhaps, that this protest brought to the country again is the issue of this town hall.
Yeah.
Because before the protest, whether it was commissioned or not, we saw governors, we saw traditional rulers, ministers, even the Speaker of the House of Representatives doing what they call town halls, and all of these were the things they were doing when they were campaigning for elections. But after the elections, everybody went away, and all of that. So, as part of perhaps one of the gains of the protest, is and we hope that eventually it will be sustained.
Yeah, it should.
Moving forward. But then, at the point that we are today, at least today, it was the security chiefs that we were listening to. There were hardly protests across the country, but in Lagos, they're talking about day of mourning, which means they will be back at the Ojota Park,
Freedom
Park tomorrow. As a youth, with what we have seen, the Russian flag, the violence and all of that, what do you think should be on the minds of the youth at this point with this protest? Are we going to continue? They said 10 days. Are we going to drag on for 10 days? Looking forward, what should we be doing as a country at this point?
Before the protest, like some days to the protest, I was discussing with some people, and I told them that I would have wished that this protest did not go on, because the protest has actually achieved more than what the protest itself will have bring, because it has never happened in this country where people will announce that a protest is coming up and the fear is everywhere. That alone shows you that the government understands the power of young people. Do you understand? And now that the protest has come on board, and this is day 6, we have now seen the way it is. It's for the young people to also, find a way to restructure their strengths in a way that we can always use it to better the society. Because what they're agitating for, myself and yourself and everybody here, we patronize the same market. You buy yam from the same market where I buy yam from. Likewise, everybody here. So if the country, becomes good or better, it's for everybody. So what they are agitating for is what is affecting every person, regardless of where you reside, where you live, so far you live on this country called Nigeria. So what we're saying is that the young people are yearning for a better society. They are yearning for, a more egalitarian society where every human being is just and equal, where nobody is above the law. You understand what I'm saying? A very open and transparent society where, politicians are accountable to their followers, where followers are, bold enough to ask questions. What we are saying is that a better Nigeria is possible.
All right, Mr. Top.
Yes.
This Russian flag issue, the security agencies have condemned it. Some knowledgeable Nigerians say it is treasonable. Can you give us your own perspective from the eye of the law?
Yes, I quite agree with the perspective with respect to the display of other sovereign nations' flag within the street of Nigeria, on the street of Nigeria. It is treasonable. It is an insurrection, act of insurrection. It is, I don't know how to characterize it, but it's frowned by our law, both by the criminal code and every other, even the penal code operating in the northern Nigeria, because we have 2 regimes of criminal laws operating in Nigeria. The South has criminal code, while the North. So those two regime of law admonished and criminalized the action they have done. There's no way you can, in the context of protest, begin to display and flag off other, national flag of other nations. So that is contrary to our law. Now, beyond this point, there is a very critical point I want to make here within the context of the ongoing demonstration on the street. Police have really, taken these issues a bit beyond quite our expectations. Maybe so challenging that one is faced with a very delicate and precarious situation. One, protecting rights that is established by Constitution, they exist. No policeman will say that those rights does not exist because ignorance knowledge is excuse. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So that those rights excuse. One, then also the interest to promote national unity, national security, national peace, and public order, and as well as protecting the right of other citizens of Nigeria who also have to go to Wuse Market, Sabongere Market to also make a living and purchase, and the taxi drivers moving. So it's a precarious situation. But the law puts so much expectation on the security agencies in this context. Section 83 sub 4 of the Police Amendment Act, states that once a group of persons in the context of what we have now have written to you requesting for police protection for a demonstration or in the context of whatever it is, you must provide security and within and for the protesters. So, and which they did, and they comply with the requirement of the law. Now, police has power to arrest under Section 4 of the Police Act, prevention of crime, arrest of criminals persons who have committed a crime, and the preservation of law and order. That is the responsibility of the police. No policeman will see a person committing a crime and look the other way, because there's a duty imposed on him to arrest. But the police in arresting must make sure that is the law said under the criminal law, at the Constitution, you must arrest when there's a reasonable suspicion of one having committed a criminal offense, or when there's actual commission of criminal offense. But in this context, like every other person has spoken, and so many contentious issues, and the scholars have said, you see a peaceful person, a group of persons demonstrating, some of them carrying green leaves, flying it like this. What does this signify? Peace. We are for peace. And in most cases, because you don't want them to go move at some point, go beyond at some point, you use all manner of force, sometimes tear gas, and all sorts of things. Supreme Court have dealt with some of these cases, and by Section 235 of the Constitution, Supreme Court is the highest law court in the land, and by Section 287 sub 1 of the Constitution, every Supreme Court judgment has to be enforced by all persons and authorities to the Republic of Nigeria. I'm coming, sir. In the case of Magaji and Board of Custom and Exercise, Section 34 of the Constitution has granted persons right to dignity of human person, and no person shall be subjected to inhuman or degrading treatment. In that case, the Board of Custom and Exercise, through the police and the Board of Custom and Exercise, their force, went to the market in Lagos State, then used
we've seen all of what has happened on the street. In fact, the National Human Rights Commission came out with a statement condemning the security agencies for the way and manner they have handled this. But they've also said the security agencies should investigate and bring those who perpetrated those acts to justice.
Yes.
The question is, can the police investigate, bring their own men to justice for dealing with people with the videos from Azare, from Bauchi, from Kano? In fact, in Kaduna, there's a family that said their son a tailor was shot dead by the police. The police is saying there's even no
Not just any tailor. He was also in the
No, this was on Monday, even before the Russian flag thing.
Yes.
And they're saying there was no killing, but the president in his speech has admitted that indeed that was on the first day of the protest. The president in his speech on Sunday admitted that look, there were killings in Kaduna, in Kano, and all of that. So this leaves a motive. But we also noticed that in the last 24 hours, it appears attention has moved from the demands of the protesters to the Russian flag. The government is not talking about anything. Nobody is talking about anything the Russian flag, as if that is...
No. You may not rule that out. In a way, I tend to want to say, look, there is the need, because no other country's flag was waved, but the Russian flag. I think that
the Russian
it
embassy,
needs to be investigated.
Yes. The Russian embassy should take admit.
They issued a statement. What I'm saying is, it appears the flag issue has taken over the discussion and the issues and the demands that are on ground. We are almost forgetting the issues.
I just wanted to conclude on that session 34, because we will keep on hammering the right to freedom of movement, assembly. There are other rights that are being violated on the street of Nigeria on daily basis. One, you have mentioned that someone was shot. Section 33 have said that every person has right to life, and nobody shall be deprived intentionally of his life, save in execution of sentence of a court, of which he has been found guilty by a competent court of law in Nigeria. So the only yardstick for taking somebody's life is by a court of law, where the person has been convicted, not by a policeman. So it is an absolute broad use of force for a policeman. In fact, it's repugnant to natural justice and good conscience for a policeman to raise his rifle and point at a armless, defenseless citizen of Nigeria. Such policemen should be subjected to, I wouldn't know how to describe it. So the law forbids that. Dignity of human person, I've cited a case of Mogaji.
Like the boy who was killed in Kubwa.
Yes.
He just came to watch the protesters and was not even involved.
Yes. So Mogaji, and they use guns, horsewhips, and the tear gas on the market. They went to market to seize contraband goods and used tear gas. Supreme Court said no, that it is degrading and inhuman treatment for you to use that on the people of Nigeria. So Nigerian police should draw force, and what have done is against the law. Right of freedom of movement granted by section 41 of the Constitution. You recall the case of Williams and Maja Kondomi of 1962. Yes, when the federal government then, under 1960 Constitution, issued and declared state of emergency in old western Nigeria. Williams happens to be the legal advisor of an Action Group Party, who was very vocal and was on television everywhere. His right was curtailed using the state of emergency ordinance of 1962 to say, you stay in your house within 2 kilometer radius, don't come out from some kilometer radius, restricted movement. The court said it was wrong for the police and the security agencies to have done that. In the case of Shugaba Dam and the Federal Minister of Internal Affairs, you know, Shugaba was deported to Chad, that he was not a citizen of Nigeria. Supreme Court admonished them and said, no, you cannot prevent him from moving around Borno State and deport him. You know, Sabakoba and DSS. So Olubakoba was going out of Nigeria. DSS seized his passport and asked him, you can't travel out. Reason? No reason. Supreme Court said no. You cannot seize. It amounts to a right to breach of right of freedom of movement for you to restrict and remove his passport. The transcendental movement of man from state of nature into society was based on social contract. And it was that contract that government is being instituted to provide, as enshrined and declared under section 14 of the Constitution, the political objective to provide food, to provide pipe-borne water, to provide
the basic
necessity to man. Beyond this point, as soon as we are canvassing and advocating for betterment
don't
of
forget
Nigeria,
that those rights, the same Supreme Court has said they are not justiciable.
I'm coming there.
So let the SDP National Chairman also come in, because at this point, I think the country should be looking for the way forward.
Solution.
I actually have a question for him.
Yes.
Being a party man, a politician, the House of Representatives has banned members from WhatsApp groups, public speaking, and freedom of association or forming of any group. Now CSOs have come out to say, look, this directive is illegal, unenforceable, and a threat to democracy.
Was it a law?
A muzzling of lawmakers and very draconian.
No, but was it a law? Was it a law that was promulgated?
It wasn't a law, but it banned members. That's why
it's rubbish.
Again, you look at throughout the duration of this protest. Have you seen lawmakers talking?
Let me tell you this. You see, we are looking at it from a perhaps very light point of view. You know, some of the judgments he mentioned are embedded in our national archives that have to do with human rights and so on and so forth. But let me say this. The government needs to invest in training and retraining of the Nigerian police force. If there's one security agencies that have been decimated, it's the Nigerian police force. If you look at the behavior of the Nigerian army, they were very civil, they were very friendly during the protest. Civil defense is the same, because there's more training in those institutions. The Nigerian police force like a lot of training. They need to understand that security responsibility, internal security responsibility lies with the Nigerian police force. And for them to understand that they are part of the civilian engagement by their establishment, by their nature and by their practice is extremely very important. So retraining the Nigerian police for during crisis and during peace is extremely very important to solve this problem. Number two, the Russian issue, I think, is a rascally behavior carried out from the sports within the sub-African countries that we have witnessed of recent. I don't think those who did it understand the implication of what they did. So for me, since the Chief of Army, Chief of Defense Staff and Co. said they are going to investigate it, perhaps there are individuals that are behind it that motivated them to carry those flags. But we should also look at the possibility of the overzealousness of some of those youths that saw what happened in Niger, what saw Burkina Faso, what happened in Kenya, and so on and so forth. Similar things happen as well. So if something is trending, for whatever political reason or motives, we shouldn't over-exaggerate it to create more problem. We should deal with it based on the circumstances that generated that particular behavior. But then the security agents should go ahead and investigate the reason. Perhaps there are individuals or foreign interests behind it. But what I'm saying is that it happens in largely where we have trouble spots within our regions or region and so on and so forth. It wasn't as if it's happening only in Nigeria.
Okay, the West African sub-region.
Yes, it's where we have this thing. You saw them raising Russian, because it's like Russia is trending everywhere right now, whether anybody like it or not, for whatever reasons, for crisis around the world.
For people who say they are protesting against hunger, hardship and this, the material, somebody must have bought it. They sold it. All of those things.
That's the point I'm making. That's why I said that the security agencies that say they are going to investigate, they should investigate. Because if someone is complaining of hunger, where does he get the money to buy the material and sow it? That's why I said the security agency must investigate. Perhaps some individual motivated the innocent children who are not aware of the implications of what they are doing. And those responsible, those behind it, those who bought the material must face justice. That I agree with 100%. But let me say this. These protests can end because the president in his speech said the ball stopped at his own desk. The president offered dialogue to deal with the issue. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I saw the Minister of Finance on AIT, I think today.
Yes.
Dishing out some statistics.
It was at 11 o'clock.
The minister admitted, quite frankly, in the area of agricultural expansion and what have you, they haven't met up with this farming season. But we've been mentioning this even before the rainy season commenced. Sure. We advise the government. So, and we advise them that all equipment that relates to food production, they should prioritize it in terms of this palliative. Now, if the government admitted that they have goofed, they have not put their priorities right, what they need to do is opening the border will not solve the problem. Because what currency are going to use to import the foodstuff? And at what rate are you going to sell it? Now, if the Minister of Information said that they have brought excessive foods and they are going to be sent a designated place, who will be in charge? Because the one that they have sent to state the palliative, most of the governors have not given it out to the citizens. The most privileged ones are ones that are close to the government or government personnel that have access to those foods.
Civil servants are also keeping those foods.
Servants are also doing that. Now, two, if the government also wants to deal with this issue, they need to engage the political actors. It never occurred to them that there's no institution that have structure up to the polling unit than political parties. There was no even attempt to discuss with the leader of political parties, how do we work to strengthen our country? How do we solve this problem? There's just absent-mindedness in dealing with that. They are applying very vicious statements, coercive statements that are not good for the system. An angry man is a hungry man. Nigerians are hungry. There's no two ways about it. The president admitted it himself. He inherited a collapsed system. He knew it was a collapsed system. Our economy was on its knees. We are in the very deep recession. Now what he needed to do is look, how do I consult the citizens to understand where I'm coming from? Now, the fundamental challenge the president is facing, he says he's going to step on toes, is unbundling CBN and NNPC. These are the biggest cartel, the worst cartel ever Nigeria have established. And an individual that have invested in Nigeria more than any other one is being sabotaged by the same country that is traveling to other countries to market Nigeria and looking for investors. Now, if your priorities are mixed up, or others within the government are undermining the government, the duty of the president is to call everybody to order. The advisors of the president must be sincere, must be open, must be patriotic to advise this president. Where he is going wrong, Mr. President, this will not help the country. This is the only way the president can stop all these issues forthwith. Any other issue is diversionary, and they are not advising him well.
But you didn't answer my question on the House of Reps banning members.
I answered because I told you it's rubbish, because all what can happen is that it has to be a law. If it is an act of law passed by the assembly, assented to the president, stopping people from assembling. Now, the organs that can do that with overwhelming evidence or investigation are either the DSS or the police, after generating intelligence that the assembly is likely to create mayhem or instability. But not an elected member who's supposed to strengthen the law, who's supposed to look at the law and make it easy for people who represent constituency that is suffering from hunger. Now, the other issue that I want to mention, let me not forget, is this local government financial autonomy. The president have created a conversation up to the local government, up to the community level, that my intention is to liberate the local government and the citizens. Why can't they take this conversation? That this is what we intend to do. The governors are kicking against it, but anything short of carrying that conversation to the people on the street to understand the good intention of the president is like exercise of futility, because the governors are fighting it, the local government chairmen are issuing statements that they don't want it. So this is a serious situation that we're in.
The National Assembly, the 10th National Assembly is almost like a school where you have a principal and then the student, everybody falls in line. If you don't, you will discipline you the way they discipline what's his name, Ali Ndume, and your senator.
We are eating.
But Dotun, how can we build national consensus? During the NSAS, there was some form of consensus. Let's set up committees, panels to investigate, and all of that. The National Council of State came in, spoke with the president, addressed the country and all of that. How do we build national consensus here? Because we've seen a situation where the National Youth Council of Nigeria, Nigeria Labour Congress, TUC, everybody pulled out. They say they are not part of the protests. Civil society organization in Abuja, in the last 24 hours, we've seen some of them, after the protesters have left, say they are going to the National Stadium. How do we build national consensus on this?
Thank you. I would like to say this. The president happens to be a genuine person, but unfortunately with a very bad system. And I will advise Mr. President, this is a form of advice or a plea to him because he's a father. The president has a lot of ideas, he has a lot of programs and policies that he has put in place. But unfortunately, when you look at Nigeria critically since the return of democracy in 1999, the governors have always positioned themselves as if they own the country more than any other person. And in this present situation today, the president needs to find a way to implement his policy directly to the people at the grassroots. Some days ago, the president, during his speech, we heard that about 600 billion naira has been, handed over to these governors to support the people at the grassroots. Today, where is the money? And if you look at the agitations of people, is a coming together of grievances from grassroots. And if people are fine at the community level, local government level, at the state level, I don't think there will be need for this protest. So the president should endeavor. It's never a crime if the president implements a policy at the national level and people at the village level, at the community level, get to feel it directly. He should stop handing over these policies to the state governor. We can't continue to put our future, our destiny in the hands of
system where the states,
because these governors are putting in, they are part of it, but because now people are protesting, blaming it on the president. Yes, they've left the governors, but nobody's asking them questions.
I think maybe the better thing would be,
no state receive anything less than 1.5 billion in this money that was shared to them.
I think monitoring mechanism should be put in place because they are closer to the people, and then the local government is even closer. So,
but these are the governors also coming out now to support the protest against.
Sorry, we've totally run out of time.
Let me say this. Maybe we can go back to 2 tier of government. If we eliminate state governors, it is easier for what he's saying to go through, and then we have to amend.
That's a matter for another day.
In the US,
just your last word, and so we can round off the program. We will totally
analysis,
run out of
in
time.
as much as I sympathize with the people of Nigeria, especially the youth on the street of Nigeria, echoing their voices for betterment of their future and to put food on our table, we must also accept the fact that there are also limits to certain exercise of a right. If you are protesting and you have to pluck a mango on the road, you have committed a crime and the police may arrest you. If you have to commit a crime and run into a state library to carry things, police may have to arrest you, which I know Nigerian youths are not part of the people, the hoodlums that engage in looting. Police have, like in Kano State, have charged them to court yesterday, and the case may be. There is and I know the peaceful assembly, they have constitutional right to do it, so they must do it within the ambit of the law. Because where your rights start, where your right ends, another man's right starts.
And every right has a responsibility.
Finally, the National Assembly has a concomitant responsibility in this context now to help Nigeria out of this situation. Chapter 2 of the Constitution, which fundamental objective and state policy.
So maybe when they come back from
sorry, please.
We're completely out of time.
State policy should be made a justiciable right.
Thank you.
Political objective and social objective, so that people can be able to go to
Thank you, Vincent.
Thank you so much, Mr. Otopopo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Choose bones, not meats.
National Chairman, Social Democratic Party, Dotu Omolaye, National Youth Council. We also had Dixon Ako, the National Commandant of Peace Corps, joining us. Thank you. I will hope that we'll continue this conversation, and indeed the nation will find a way forward. I am Terverr Tyav.
And my name is Uju Ejeye. Thanks for staying with us.